Welcome back to Sonic Creations, everyone. We just got a massive amount of news dropped on us, and there's so many things to talk about. I mean, from the mobile games side of things, and then all the way to Sonic X Shadow Generations, and now the movie having a little bit of a behind the scenes and like showing their passion for making these movies, and that they definitely don't want to stop here. They want to make more, and that's a really good message to hear, because I think we were all unsure if the third movie was going to be the last or if there was going to be more, and it looks like they have a lot more plans. Potentially, from what I've heard from leaks and rumors, is that there's going to be a chaotic show that is about SPO Vector Charmy. Maybe Mighty could be in there too, we don't know. Like, the movies can do whatever the heck they want. You know, they can mix classic and modern characters, I'm sure. But I'm pretty sure it's just going to be SPO, Charmy, and Vector if they ever do that. So it's a very exciting future for the movie universe, and you can just see that with every film they've been getting better and better. And I think they're going to turn things around from like the mixed reception of the show, and they're going to put the movie universe in a much better position going forward into the future. Now, the thing I really want to talk about is Mephiles being in Sonic X Shadow Generations. So that's the thing for me that is really hitting hard and is sort of like eliminating all the other news that we got. We did get to see more of a glimpse of Dark Beginnings, like the latter episodes, but in the game, we finally get to see some cinematics, some cutscenes, which I was sort of complaining about in my previous videos, like, why haven't we seen anything, you know? And so now we finally have, and oh man, they're cooking. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Mephiles looks incredible. I don't know how much of a role he's actually playing in the story. I would assume that, you know, he's not going to be an equal villain to Black Doom in terms of that narrative. It seems like Black Doom is still the main villain, but I think Mephiles appearing here, it's incredible. We haven't seen this character officially in a AAA game since 2006. I mean, you have to understand, it's been a long time. Not only are we seeing Mephiles, but we're seeing that final boss of Mephiles in Dusty Desert, which makes me wonder, are we going to get Dusty Desert? Is that a level that we're going to see in this game? At least maybe have Black Doom like sort of transition another level, like maybe Kingdom Valley transitions to Dusty Desert in Act 2 or something like that. Who knows? But that is just really, really exciting news to hear. And this is shaping up to be like the proper Generations game, like the one that actually properly celebrates all of the stories, not just Sonic's side, not just like specific games, but everything is now pretty much here, at least the majority, right? We can't have literally every single level, but it's nice to have Shadows levels sort of transition and also have these very unique bosses of characters that we haven't seen in a long, long time. So that part of it is really special, regardless of how big of a role Mephiles plays. It doesn't really matter. I'm just happy that he's here and he's being acknowledged, and that, you know, they're going all the way with their 06 acknowledgement and actually having Mephiles return. I don't know what this means for the story, and I think I'd want to make a separate video exploring the possibilities of what Mephiles' role could be in this game and in Shadow Generations story specifically. And is there a tie to the Time Eater? Is he just a rival boss battle, or is he literally controlling the Time Eater and affecting Sonic's story as well on the other half of the game? That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm curious about. Like, how deep does this go? Is Ian Flynn actually writing in his theory, like his sort of fan theory that he always had in his head, where Mephiles was actually the Time Eater and they were connected and all that kind of stuff? It seems like the same energy. It seems like the same time manipulation. If you play 06, you will see that it's very similar to the powers of the Time Eater. And so I just hope that they connect those two ideas, because then that poster we saw for Sonic X Shadow Generations makes total sense. That one half is the Time Eater, that being Mephiles. The Time Eater is Mephiles' final form, sort of like above Crystal Mephiles is Time Eater. That would be really, really cool if that was the case, but it could be a separate entity entirely, and I think this kind of confirms that they are separate entities, but again, we won't know until we play the game, which is why I'm almost like, maybe I should just wait until the game comes out in a month and then just give my final thoughts of like having the official story in my head of where I think they could go next, you know, with the character, if Mephiles doesn't die here, which, as far as I'm concerned, there is no way to kill Mephiles because he's not really a mortal being. He cannot be killed, at least not physically. He can be sealed. We know he can be sealed in the Scepter of Darkness, so maybe the Scepter of Darkness will come back. Also, in this Dusty Desert final boss, we know in the final cutscene of Shadow's story in 06, he removes his inhibitor rings. Are we going to see that in this boss battle? Are we going to have a moment in this game in general where Shadow removes his inhibitor rings? I think that would be really interesting to see, and that's just something that I want to know. I gotta know. Where are they going with this? You know, because it's very easy to assume, oh, it's just a rival battle and it's just going to be a small thing, but this has got me so hyped. Even though he had a very small appearance in this trailer, it's just like, you can't just drop that and not expect anyone to think, you know, hey, this was like a Thanos level villain here, and he's just appearing for like 5 seconds in this game. I mean, if that's really what it is, will I be disappointed? No, because I'm going to be happy either way, whether his role is big or small, because I love this villain. It's like one of my favorite Sonic villains, like it's up there for me, and I want him to be done justice. And again, knowing this is sort of a shorter game, I'm like, I don't know, like, should they just save it for another game and just have him have a small appearance here and then in the future have him come back? Only time will tell, you know? If I get the impression that they're not killing him and they're saving him for a future thing, and when Shadow defeats him, he says something like, I will return or something, you know, then we'll know then if he'll come back. And also, is Dan Green coming back to voice Mephiles? That's another question I have. Sean Schimmel didn't come back for Black Doom, so I'm assuming Dan Green's not coming back for Mephiles. You know, it's not like I have an official voice cast sheet, you know, that I can just look at for reference. We just have to guess, you know, if the old voice actors, if any of them are coming back. But it seems like that's not the case, which is fine, because the newer voice actors for all these characters have gotten a lot better over the years, and I'm open for new interpretations, so it's totally fine. It just would be cool because Mephiles' voice is so iconic at this point because he's only been portrayed by one voice actor, so it's really hard, you know, for someone new to come in at this point since he's only ever had one. What I'm hoping is that it'll still sound like Mephiles when you hear him talk, and I hope there's some interesting dialogue there too, and it's not just like, you know, him laughing and twirling around like a ballerina. I hope we actually get to see Mephiles have a really cool moment with Shadow where he gives him some insight into what he's going through, and maybe he tries to manipulate him a little bit, you know, and get in his head. I think something like that would be really cool. But yeah, this is the first time we're seeing a totally new cast come in and play these characters, so it feels like a reunion, but it feels like these characters have gotten older and they've matured. You know, Kirk Thornton's performance of Shadow is much more, from what I've heard now, more recently, is much more of a mature sounding take on the character. Like Jason Griffith's Shadow sounded much younger and more angry. Kirk Thornton's is sounding a little bit still angry, but more like slightly more mature sounding. And, you know, that could literally be because he's older than Jason Griffith, but I like Kirk's portrayal. It's very unique. I really do like it. I think there's a good crossover in Keanu's performance and Kirk's now. Like, they have a very similar sounding Shadow, which I think is cool. Different, but similar. So yeah, we'll have to see. The only thing I can theorize is that, yeah, we're going to be seeing Dusty Desert to some degree. Whether that's just for this rival battle, probably the case. I mean, Dusty Desert is not too terribly interesting in my opinion for a level. I like the quicksand aspect of it. I like the aesthetic of the desert and like those very ancient looking ruins. It's very cool. It's very like Secret Rings-esque, but it's not like, I don't know. It's not one of my go-to levels that I would pick from 06 to be in this game. Like Kingdom Valley is like, yeah, that's peak. Kingdom Valley is like the best level in 06 for sure. I think the only other level that I would want from 06 would probably be either Flame Core or White Acropolis. Most likely, because we don't have any snow levels, and I would love to see a modern take on White Acropolis with like today's graphics, what they could do with the snow and like how they could have the snow melt around Shadow's skates and stuff like that as he's skating through it. They could do some really cool effects with that. But yeah, White Acropolis just being incredibly iconic, that's where Shadow's campaign started in 06, so I just thought either White Acropolis or Flame Core. Flame Core is incredibly iconic, but now instead of Flame Core, we're getting Chaos Island instead, which is fine, but it's like Flame Core is just so iconic. So that's still kind of stings. I was really looking forward to seeing Flame Core again, but that's fine. Dusty Desert is still fine. My favorite part of that level was definitely like the caves going through the inside of the ruins and stuff. I think that's where Dusty Desert really shined as a level and having more of a unique aesthetic. So moving on to the actual cutscenes, we get to see Maria and Gerald and how the humans are going to look in the Sonic games moving forward. I'm assuming they want to keep things more consistent and not continually change the designs of the humans. You know, they want to stick to something, I'm sure. It's kind of like a hybrid of Unleashed humans and the Adventure humans. It's like not quite anime, but it's not quite what it was before in the early 2000s, which was a very like hybrid anime mixed with their own sort of stylization of humans. You know, it's definitely a mix. It's very rounded and cartoony, but it still looks kind of anime. It's really interesting. We only get a glimpse of it, so I didn't really get a good look at Maria's face or Gerald's face. Like, we only got glimpses, but hey, I was complaining a little bit that like we haven't seen any cutscenes, and now we've seen the cutscenes, and so they look fantastic. That's what I'll say about that. And I'm really happy to see that they're going to be revisiting the early years of Shadow and Maria and Gerald on the Ark, and I do worry a little bit that might take away from the mystery of Shadow's character if they just like show too much. You know, it's good to just keep some things up to the imagination, kind of like in that Fearless interview with Izuka where he said, you know, he wanted to keep some mysteries alive, like why is Shadow a hedgehog, like how was Gerald inspired to make Shadow. You know, that's sort of left up to interpretation of the fans, and I like stuff like that. I think keeping a little mystery is healthy for a character like Shadow, as I've said in the past. But there's also the obvious elephant in the room that at the very end of the story trailer, they're teasing Shadow reuniting with Maria for a second time after all these years, and you know that's going to be emotional. You know that's going to be crazy. And I'm assuming who's voicing Maria in this game is the same voice actress that's voicing Maria in The Dark Beginnings. So if that's the case, it's going to be extra emotional because we're going to be getting a lot more backstory in Dark Beginnings. It's going to add more context to Shadow Generations as well. And I think it said in the PS5 version that we're going to be able to have those Dark Beginnings animations like actually as a part of that game that you can play probably in like an extras menu or something like that. So that's probably the most underestimated part of this trailer of like what that means for Shadow's character, because if he finally, after all these years, is really finally able to put that to rest, that pain, you know, that he's felt from that loss, even after it's been all these years, I know he still holds on to it, even though people theorize like, oh, the true ending of Shadow the Hedgehog where he throws away the photo and he's like, I make my own choices and all that. Like, yeah, like that was him deciding his own destiny and him making the conscious decision, I'm going to stop letting people try to control me and tell me who I am and use me like a weapon. I'm going to just be my own person. I'm going to protect this earth like Maria wanted. He wasn't necessarily like trying to forget about Maria, or like he was putting it behind him, but I think even though you put something behind you, it's still gonna be emotional if you ever saw that person again that you lost, you know what I mean? So there's definitely going to be a very emotional moment in this game, which is unexpected because it's this Generations. It's not a game known for its story, I'm sorry. So, you know, the fact that they're rewriting Generations and they're adding Shadow Generations, it just means that, and we're getting Dark Beginnings, like everything is enhancing this, you know? And this is partially what I was talking about with like the synergy of this brand and like how the movie is working in tandem with the game and how the game is working in tandem with the animation, and the animation is actually canon to the game. The movie adds more context for the people who know less about Shadow for the game, and the game enhances the movie and the movie enhances the game. And do you see what I'm saying? It's amazing. Like that part of it, just all we're getting to see of Gerald and Maria, I think it's just so good to have these characters, these human characters, the ones that actually matter. No offense to, you know, some of the other humans they put focus on in the movie universe, but this is what I want to see. Maria and Gerald, like getting more time with their characters. I would have killed for that back in the day. And, you know, I'm still processing it right now. We just got this trailer. So I was waiting for a story trailer, really. So yeah, it just looks incredible that Gerald as well as Maria are going to be meeting with Shadow again in the present day, a modern day Shadow. And what does that mean for his character? Like, that's so exciting. That means we're going to be getting a new and reborn Shadow in the games who is stronger, mentally I mean, stronger, and is going to move forward, putting these things more to rest. He's going to be more at peace with everything now, and that's going to enhance his character ultimately. Where are we going from here? Why is Mephiles here? Is he connected to the Time Eater? These are all the questions I have, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on that, because it's something we're going to have to work through together to really piece together what's going on here and figure things out, because this is a very complex story actually from what it seems like. It's more so about a future present day, like today's present day version version of Shadow going back and having his own Generations experience, and the Shadow from Generations is a Shadow from the past, right? I think there's two different Shadows going on here. At least that's my theory, but I know everyone has their own theory right now, and it's very chaotic with trying to like figure out exactly how this thing works. They seem to not want to explain certain things, so we'll just have to figure it out when the game comes out. But yeah, it seems like there's actually going to be quite a bit of story packed into this game, and that is very, very reassuring for me. That I was a little bit worried because we hadn't seen any cutscenes, so now that we've seen them, yeah, it looks incredible. The animation looks really, really good. It's a huge step up from things like Forces and all that kind of stuff. Like, it looks really incredible. The Dark Beginnings is coming out tomorrow. It's releasing a day after the Sonic Central. I'm definitely going to be covering that as well. I'm going to be covering Emerald as a character, going over his backstory and giving my thoughts on him as a character and maybe his potential return and what that could mean. Mephiles, I'm going to be making another video. I already did make a video about Mephiles, but it was more so about his past endeavors. Now I want to talk about his future endeavors, which hopefully there are future plans for Mephiles, and this is not just a one-off, but if it is, I'm totally happy with that. I'm just happy to see Mephiles again. There's also a few other things I want to touch on before I wrap up this video because I don't want it to be too long. One of those things is the DC crossover that, like, you know, Sonic's crossing over with the Justice League and all that kind of stuff, and they're going to do like a 2-year span of comics. I don't know if they're going to be IDW, I have no idea, but they're going to be doing these DC crossover comics, which is really, really incredible and unexpected. I think it's unexpected for everybody, but we've only ever seen Sonic crossover with Mega Man in the Archie comics, so this would be the second comic crossover. There is so much to look forward to. I'm sure I didn't cover everything, but I just wanted to cover the things that really stuck out to me the most and like give my brief thoughts on it. And I'm going to be making more in-depth videos on Mephiles' role in Shadow Generations, and I'm going to be making a lot of new content in general that I already had planned before the Sonic Central, and now all this stuff with Sonic Central, so there's a lot of stuff on the way. Also, before I go, I did want to say thank you for the support of my new episode of Sonic Cybernetics, episode 6. It's been really nice to see all the feedback, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying it, and I am already working on pre-production of episode 7 and getting things set up for the future. Hopefully I'll have episode 7 out by sometime 2025 in the summer. That's the goal, and then we'll get probably 2 episodes out next year. That's also the goal. So just planning out the future for the animated series and all that kind of stuff for those who are interested. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys so much. Let me know what you think. Let's have some conversations in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, creators.